Hello, and welcome to the newest episode of the Blue Collar Racing Podcast. Got a buddy of mine, and a lot of you guys might know him, TJ Fry with 1badvp44 Performance.
How you doing, man?
Pretty good. So tell us about yourself and about your business and what got you into this kind of stuff, and kind of give the listeners a good rundown.
Yeah, sure. So, 39 years old. I live up here in the cold state, Minnesota. Obviously, as you said, I run 1badvp44 Performance. I kind of got into that by accident. I'm a full-time railroader. I'm a locomotive engineer for the Canadian National, and when COVID hit, things got kind of slow, and I've had my truck on Instagram for quite a while, number of years. I've owned the truck for like 8 years, and man, it was like as it got faster and faster, more and more people started, contacting me saying, "Hey, help me out. What'd you do to make your truck so fast?" And I'm like, I've just kind of been surrounded by the right people, and it was getting to where I was talking to people like 6 to 8 hours a day, and I was only working 1 day a week for the railroad, and I'm like, you know what? I should start making tunes and seeing if guys are interested. Just to see, I seem to know the platform pretty well. I know how to use the Quadzilla really well, so I said, screw it. I started putting them out. Word spread around, and I tell you what, man, it went up like wildfire. I never expected it. I'm a pretty humble guy, and within, 5 or 6 months, it was so busy that Quadzilla had contacted me, and I thought, well, shoot, here's my cease and desist. I'm making money off their product, and they were like the exact opposite. They said, "Hey, you're killing it. We're selling these Quadzillas like crazy. Everybody brings you up. What can we do to help?" And they hooked me up with another Quadzilla for free for my truck, or for my tow pig I had at the time, and just started sending business my way, and they kind of asked me what my goals were, and I said, well, I'd like to sell performance parts and get into the industry. And they're like, well, you know what? Go get your LLC and give us your info, and let's get you set up. And then here we are now. It's grown big time, and now I'm moving into the compound turbo kits and selling quite a few of those. I sell shide pumps like crazy. It's great, man. I love it. I'm so happy with how it's turned out, and it was all by accident, really. I just kind of took a chance, and here we are.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Do you still do the stuff with the railroad, or are you 24/7 on your business now?
Yeah, I'm still working with the railroad. I would love to get out of there, but the benefits and, insurance and our pension and stuff, it's going to take a whole lot bigger business for me to, ditch out on a job like the railroad. They don't treat us very good, but they pay us to deal with it, so I deal with it.
Understand that. And then you said you were getting into other stuff besides just the tunes. You're doing the compound turbo kits. Are you pretty much doing like all performance parts? What stuff are you guys doing in-house, and then what are you, I guess, outsourcing?
So basically right now, I work pretty closely with Diesel Auto Power, Infinite Performance, Greg Turner with GT Performance Turbos. I market their products, and Diesel Auto Power handles obviously all my drop shipping, I don't really have to deal with it too much, but, Diesel Auto Power, some people know, some people don't, but Diesel Auto Power and Quadzilla, they're owned by the same gentleman. So, I work pretty closely with them too as well. But as for the compound turbo kits, I make everything in-house. I don't source anything out, man. I'm a one-man show, and I'm just trying to, make everything easier on the guys that were in my position 7-8 years ago and didn't know a single thing about the Cummins platform. And the one thing I've noticed around, going through this the last few years is how some of these guys are taken advantage of in the industry. So I was like, you know what? No, we got to help out. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I've always noticed, like when I first got into it and building my race truck and stuff, so many of the parts that you buy that are just a box setup, turbo kit, whatnot, you always either have fitment issues or it's just not user friendly for taking on and off. It's fine if it's your daily driver, you're putting it on and you're just doing maintenance to it. But in like the race application, they're not user friendly for changing on and off. And I see a lot more of the guys like you and a bunch of stuff that Cody Fisher does and the fire pump guys do. They make a lot of stuff a lot more user friendly for changing stuff down the road. Because face it, we don't keep turbos very long.
Right.
We're all the time changing everything. But
yeah, when I first started really hopping up my truck, it's kind of funny. I did a local race event here, and the Ford guys will love it, but I got beat by a 6.4 Ford, and it pissed me off. And so I went home. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna add timing to the tune. I'm gonna just blow this guy's doors off next time. Well, instead I cracked my block, and that's obviously when I wasn't as familiar with the tuning process. I just was like throwing numbers at it, and I said, screw it. I'm gonna compound turbo this thing. I'm gonna just hit them hard next year. Well, the downside is I didn't want to pay $3,000-$4,000 for piping, and I don't know how to weld. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll just buy a welder and learn. So I built my red kit that everybody has seen, at UCC or whatever on the Reaper, and guys were like, man, that just looks great. Do you make those? Do you make those for customers? I said, well, no, I want to get a little bit better with the welding first, and so I got better with it. And now we've sold, I don't know, not too many. I'd say 30 kits, maybe 25, 30 or so. I'm backed up 5 weeks right now. So guys are trusting me, and I've had a lot of, good reviews. I've had some mistakes fall through, and, I do my best to take care of the guys. And like I had one guy, he had an over-under kit, and he says, hey, man, this pipe's just not lining up. I said, all right, well, maybe it was one of the ones that I always test fit every kit before I make it. And maybe that one just slipped through the cracks, So I made him a whole new kit and said, you know what, that's my bad. Let me send you out a new one. 2 weeks later, he was happy, and it looks fantastic. And through the process of all this, I'm going to circle back around to where, you're talking about fitment issues and all that. Like, through the whole process, I've tried to make these kits as easy as possible to put together. A lot of shops, you'll say, oh, got a guy that wants compounds, let's just, let's slot this guy in for a couple days, and then run into issues, and 2 days turns into a week. And you know, I got a couple of guys that have talked to me over the past with different brand compound kits, and you know, the guy ended up having to pay a shop, I don't know, 106 hours or something just to get that kit to fit. And I don't want my guys to go through that. So I've tried to eliminate some of the issues that people have with the install, and you know, at least sending directions so they know what steps to take during the process. And I always leave them my number and say, hey, if you have any issues before you throw my pipes around the garage, just give me a call, you know, because I can't expect that everybody knows as much about these as me or any of the other guys that are pretty heavy into the VP44 platform, or, you know, or trucks in general, honestly. I've made compound kits for first gens, second gens, third gens. So I try to make it as easy on the guys that may not be familiar with it. You know what I mean?
I understand that. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of materials do you use for your compound kits? I know like everybody's a little bit different. What do you normally go with?
Well, right now, like I said, I'm only about a year into my welding experience, and so right now all I'm doing is using mild steel and MIG welding everything together. The one thing that I kind of pride myself on is the quality of flanges that I use. I've seen some guys use kind of crap quality flanges, and some guys use good, but all my flanges, they're all Brian Tooley Racing, you know, milled, you know, really high quality flanges. And then for the oil lines, I make all the lines myself. You know, usually a -6 supply and -10 high flow -10 drains. I've spoke to Greg about it. He's, you know, happy with the high flow -10s. A lot of builders, they at least want your oil drains to be a 1/2 inch in diameter, you know, to at least, you know, inside diameter, to at least let that oil flow. You start getting smaller than that and it starts to pool up, can't keep up, you know. S&B filters or AFE filters, whichever ones the guys kind of prefer, and what the kit calls for. You know, I have 2 different filter sizes I use for the over-under and for the side-by-side kit. So I'm still tinkering around with the perfect filter for the side-by-side, but I'm pretty close with it right now. I mean, you install it in there, man, and it just fits like a glove right beside your overflow tank for the radiator, and it's just yeah. So I mean that, and then my boots I use, they're all PPE boots or Mishimoto. For, you know, I kind of have to go back and forth. You know, for the inlet of the S300s, I use a Mishimoto boots, or, you know, whatever I can get my hands on. But if I wouldn't use it on my truck, I'm not going to supply it on my kits. You know, so my overhead on my kits is a lot higher than probably most builders, but I'm not in it to get rich. I'm just in it to help the industry out and help the guys get, you know, what they want for a reasonable price.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I've built a few kits before. I mean, the way you're building them, I've built something like that before. There's nothing wrong with that process. I mean, as long as you're using quality parts, it's still better than going on Google and typing in compound kit and finding the first box kit you can get, because more than likely you're going to have fitment issues and all kinds of troubles down the road.
Right. And you know, when you do find those and you do have those issues, there's probably a 75% chance you're not going to get any customer service support on that, and it's just, then you got a box of pipe just laid in the garage that you paid $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for, and there it is. I mean, just sitting there collecting dust. So it just sucks. I hate seeing guys have to deal with that crap.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us about the custom tunes and the benefits of the custom tunes and what you enjoy about it. I mean, you kind of said how you got into it, but what's the bigger benefits? I know a lot of the old school guys still use the comp box. When I was VP, I was still using the comp box. I was playing around in my mind, and I actually bought a Quadzilla and was gonna go that route. Then my pump went out, and I just got mad at all of it and said bye bye BP44 and put a P pump on it. So,
Yeah, you know, man, I hear that so much, and it's kind of funny. If I have a long-time customer and he says, "Hey, I'm kind of tired of the VP. I think I'm going to swap to P pump or, you know, do a common rail swap." They think they're offending me, you know, that I kind of get a kick out of it. But so with the custom tuning on the second, you know, on the VP44s, like they're pretty forgiving. You know, granted, you push the limit too much, you know, we've all heard it. You're going to find out. But the one thing that I noticed with the Quadzilla is it was such a learning curve for guys that didn't really know what they were doing. They didn't want to take the 3-4 months to learn how to use the box properly. So I just kind of went through that. Now the benefits to the tuning, I mean, I've had guys, you know, get 3-4 extra miles per gallon. Having everything kind of mesh together is the main purpose. I mean, we all know you put a big turbo on a truck and some big injectors. The truck just does what the truck's told to do. It doesn't know what size turbo or injectors are on it. So we gotta tell it. So that's the whole process of you know, getting these things tuned in right. You know, guys that don't want smoke on the low end, we try to, you know, bring the fuel in later or bring the boost in sooner. You know, it just meshes everything together real well. It blows my mind that some guys will go out there and spend $6,000 on turbos, injectors, and all kinds of stuff, but don't want to pay the $100 or $200 to get the tune to put everything where it should be. So, you know, adding some timing and doing these little things just makes everything kind of more cohesive and just performs better, man. You know, I mean, we don't want to go down the track or drive around the street with just pouring smoke all over the place. All it is a bad rap for the diesel industry, and if I can clean that up and get guys to pass their emissions test, I got a guy in Colorado with compounds and big injectors, and he still passes emissions on a 98.5. You know, and that's just, it's great that the guy can have 700 horsepower and still pass a tight wad emissions test. It's fantastic. So, you know, that's the benefits. You know, it just makes everything jive. You know, I've had guys say that their transmission shifts better. Overall, it just drives better. Like if you guys were aware, you know, I tuned Greg Albarella's black second gen when he put a Quadzilla on it, and he made a video about it. And if you go on there and you just see the look on his face, holy crap, he says, he didn't want to sound cliche, but he's like, it feels like a brand new truck. And that right there is the whole reason I do it.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, if you're going to daily drive or weekend drive just on the street, a second gen, if I bought another second gen to drive around, it would be a VP truck. I like the street manners of a VP truck compared to a 12 valve, hands down.
Yeah.
And I would definitely do custom tuning on a street driven truck. And even for a weekend fun truck that you're taking out of the strip, they're fast. you can make them fast. Everybody says VP44s are not fast. I mean, there's you. Drew Carter has a pretty fast one. Chris Parker has a fast one. Mine was getting there. It just got to the point for me, I was kind of tired of messing with it, and it went out. I was pretty much either ready to throw in the towel with the truck or just do a whole swap. So I just decided to swap it, and I'm excited to see what the P-Pump will do, but I'm definitely going to miss the VP aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize it, but, like, honestly, man, the most fun I had with my truck was when it was just sitting on some Nitto 420s, and I could daily drive it. It was a 5-speed at first when I first got it, and I wanted to race a little bit, so I said, you know what, we'll throw the auto in there. But the most fun I had with it was when it was a single 64 with some infinite performance 6x13s and a little bit of custom tuning. I wasn't too great at it back then, but just a little bit of tuning. It made 595 horse, 1,193 foot-pounds of torque. It would run 12 sevens in the quarter mile, and the little friend group I had at the time, guys with supercharged GTOs, couple Corvettes, some Camaros, Mustangs, none of them could hang with it. And, a lot of guys don't understand. You don't really need too much to be fast and I guess fast-ish, but it doesn't take too much to go out there and play with the Camaros, Corvettes, and all that. I mean, it's a lot easier than a lot of guys think.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with you on that. I remember when mine was still on the street before the cage and everything. It was on a set of like 20x12s. I think I had the clear proxies on it. I had a single 66. I forgot what injectors I had in at that time. And it was just fun to drive on the street. It wasn't super smoky. I could take it to the event if I wanted to, go race it, drive it home. Around where I grew up, we did a bunch of field racing, a bunch of dirt drag racers in the areas that I lived. And
yep.
This one farmer, every spring and fall, he always left a part of his field with nothing in it. And we would go out there 5-6 times in a year. About once a month we would go out there and we would dirt drag. And I mean, it would be everything from somebody's brand new stock truck to what is my race truck to, I mean, it was all kinds of stuff out there. And I could drive it right there, make a bunch of passes in the dirt, have fun with the boys, and then when I was ready to go home, get back in it, drive it home, and had a great time. I had the truck in the shop right when the pandemic hit and all the COVID stuff, and all the racing got shut down, and we were still heavy in workload, but we were doing a bunch of shop work because we were working on boats at the time. So we couldn't go do nothing after work. So me and a buddy of mine, every day after work, we would move from one side of the shop to the other side of the shop, and we would just start working on the race truck. Well, of course, we couldn't go racing. It got gutted. It got caged. It got compound turbos. It was just getting everything thrown at it. And then the days of driving on the street went away. But there's parts of me that misses those times of just being able to get in the truck, drive it to work if I wanted to, take it to the dirt drags. Like, I don't go to those dirt drags anymore because I don't want to load it on the trailer, drive it there,
right.
Just to make some passes in the dirt and then put it back on the trailer and bring it all the way home. Like, it's just, it's more of a routine of everything you got to do just to take it somewhere to race it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the biggest regret I have with mine is taking away its street, its legality of being on the street. Like, I mean, its street manners now are fine. I would drive it from here to Tennessee if I could, but I have no headlights. I have one tail light, and I have some fog lights. No turn signals, no nothing, no AC radio. You know how it is. So it just I miss driving it, but it is what it is, man. We got to pay to play, right?
Exactly. And I'm the same way. Mine's set up about the same as yours. I think when you did all of your work to yours, I did all the work to mine. I mean, it was all right around 2020, 2021 is when we got like really into it. And,
yep.
I mean, it's fun. I enjoy it, but I get jealous of the guys. I got a good buddy of mine that comes racing with us, and it's a group of us that all hang out and go to races together. And he has a LBZ Duramax, and he drives up to the event, lets some air out of his tires, and he's ready to go. And I'm over there changing tires on mine, putting the slicks on, getting everything ready. We go make passes, and it started raining. And I'm changing tires, trying to get the truck back on the trailer and everything, and he's just pumping his tires up. He's ready to leave. I was like,
right.
Man, those days.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it kind of sucks, but it just gets out of hand quick. It gets out of hand quick, and you're like, oh, well, now I have a race truck.
Yep. It's everybody. Like, I've had a bunch of people tell me, like, oh, I want to have a race truck. I want something like that. But I'm like, before you go to this point, like, really enjoy that street truck that you can have fun with before you go to this point.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Like, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't go back. Like, I love what I got now. But I definitely don't recommend anybody going from just nothing to race truck. Like, definitely enjoy, because you might have a street truck that you can go run ET, or I mean, there's street trucks in 770 and stuff, and you just go have a great time. And some guys are just content with not getting any faster past that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with those guys.
No, nothing wrong with it at all. And I had never really wanted to get as in depth and lose the street ability of it until, I'd say a couple of years ago when I had a chance to buy the fiberglass front clip, and I was like, well, do I do it or do I not? As if I do, I'm gonna never be able to drive it on the street again. But at that point now, I was like, well, I want to be in the 670 class. I want to really chase the record, So I sacrificed driving it to make it faster. But and like you said, I don't regret any of it. I just I miss being able to go out there and fire it up and drive to work in it. And, but it is what it is.
Definitely. So I know we've been bouncing around some, but back to the tuning thing. How does a bad tune, like if somebody gets Quadzilla and is like, hey, I don't want to spend extra couple $100 to get tunes from you, and they start playing around with it and they start getting stuff way out of whack, how crucial is it to have good tunes versus bad tunes?
So like I said earlier, the second gens, the VPs, man, they're kind of resilient. They're forgiving. So you really got to get in there and really mess it up to do damage, you know, and like I said earlier too, I've learned from experience, you know, you throw in your timing too early or throw in your fueling too early, then you start, you know, increasing your, you know, your cylinder pressure and drive pressure, and it's just bad news. You know, starts getting real smoky or surgy. Guys can't drive it on the street because the fueling doesn't really know what it's doing because you didn't know what you were doing when you put the tune in. You know, the efficiency of the platform really drops if you don't tune it right. You know, like I said, they're forgiving to an extent, but if you don't have any idea what certain parameters are doing, then, you know, what are you doing? You know, it's just you just got to get, you know, make these things as efficient as possible. And I've learned that it just takes time. It takes time to learn it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, I've seen some guys where they have put the tunes on and the truck just does not respond how they want it to. And then sometimes you even have worse stuff where you crack the block or blow head gaskets. I mean, any tune can do that. I mean, our trucks, they pretty much find the weakest point at some point, but it's just, if you have good tuning behind you, you can try to eliminate that problem and find a weak point in something else.
Right. Right. You know, I mean, if it's not the head gasket, it's the rear end, or if it's not the rear end, we all know it's the damn transmissions. You know, it's just, you're right. I mean, it just finds every weak point along the drivetrain and until you get it figured out. But, you know, that's why when I started doing it, I wanted to keep the prices, I think, pretty reasonable. I charge $100 per tune. You know, you start dipping into the common rail side, you got guys paying 10 times that, you know, to get their tunes. So, you know, I think it's a fairly reasonable cost to go in there and get it done right. You know, free revisions until you're happy. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me, man.
Yeah. And touch back on something you said about transmissions for these trucks. Yeah, they definitely are not the strong suit in the stock form, but it's one of the most underrated things on these trucks. Like, having a good built transmission, I went from running like low eights, thinking the trans was good. I put a built trans in it, the same exact setup, nothing changed, just a built trans, and all of a sudden I was running in the mid to high sevens, just because you don't realize how much that the transmission might be slipping some.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even in my case, you know, I had my this is my fourth transmission, unfortunately, but this last build that we have done to it, I thought it was solid. We made a change last year. We went to a higher stall converter, and it just killed the efficiency of the transmission. I mean, it would not get out of its own way off the line. I couldn't cut lower than a 1.7 or a 1.8 60 foot. I mean, and with my truck, a 1.8 is just God slow. So we went back to the drawing board, and you know, I get all my transmission stuff through Garen's, and talked to Dave down there, the owner, and he built me a converter for it. And man, you know, not only did I gain my violence back in my launch, but I picked up 10 psi of boost just because I'm loading the engine down harder. And that thing is just, it is a monster of a transmission. I love it.
Yeah. The stall and the converters plays a huge role in it, especially trying to light the big turbos and stuff. You don't want it being too much. You just got to find that right medium in between of where you can still spool stuff, but you still have that hard launch. And the VP trucks, I mean, I ran one, you got one. They're not for the back half of the track. You have to make your up in that 60-foot and that 100-foot. That's where you get your speed from the VP trucks.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, the converter that we went with for this year is actually it's a DA converter. It's got a much higher torque ratio down low, and it's just a tad bit tighter than the factory converter. And you know, like what you said, you know, VP trucks, they love to get down low in the RPM and just go to work. And that's one of the biggest arguments I have with guys online or people that call me and ask, hey man, I want to put an S400 compound setup on my VP truck. Right? That's great. You know, but it's just, I'm not a believer in it. You know, I have an S300, you know, an S364 and an S480, and they light beautifully down low, and it goes to work and it gets it done. You know, I mean, I've been 650s in the 8th on fuel only. I haven't really put any spray to it this year. We'll talk about that in a bit, but you know, it's just the biggest misconception is they think, oh, a VP truck can do what a 12 valve can do, or it can do what a CP3 can do, and no, it really can't. It really cannot. You know, you have to build it right. You know, you can't just throw big shit at it and expect it to be happy. It's got to be in its wheelhouse for it to be happy. You know, that 2200 to 3200 RPM range is where it makes its money.
Exactly. The VPs are so RPM limited. Yeah, common rails, you do some head work, you do a little bit of work, some tuning. Common rail, you can push $5,000. Not that big of an issue. Same way with a P pump, you can push $5,000. You're not getting that out of a VP truck.
No, never.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to feel. I mean, they say they can go to 4,000. There's no dead set numbers on it of saying where it continuing fueling to 4,000. It just, they live at, 3,200 RPMs and down. That's where they're going to make the power.
Yep. I mean, I think the most power I've ever made was at like 3,100, and that's it. I mean, when I race, I shift at 3,200. I try not to take it much further after that. The only time I'm past that RPM range is if I miss a shift or I'm at the end of the quarter mile track. I'm just out of gear, out of RPM, so I just let it rev out. But you got to keep it down there. You got to keep it working hard in the lower RPM. That's the only way you're going to get anywhere with them.
Exactly. And that's probably the biggest misconception with the VPs is everybody, nobody knows these trucks very well. They just, they look it up on YouTube or Facebook or Google and they're like, oh, this looks easy. If you stumble into a VP, your world of racing is completely different than the P pumps. I mean, they each have their own thing. Like when I bought my race truck, other VP at the time. I just saw second gen, was like, okay, awesome. This seems like a good deal. I'll get it. I wanted a race truck anyway because I got into racing by going to an event, doing a show and shine with my 2010 fourth gen. That's a 4-door long bed. And my buddies were like, hey, take it down the strip. I took it down the strip and got hooked. And then I quickly figured out in the next 6 months of looking up parts to make a fourth gen fast was going to get expensive quick, and the street manners and towing ability was not going to be a thing anymore.
Right.
So I ditched that idea, found a second gen, bought that, discovered I had a VP, and then Chris Parker was a huge influence on me on making a VP fast, and it went well for a while, and I enjoyed it. And like I said, I'm gonna miss the VP world. I'm trying to push it on and see how fast and how far down into the brackets I can get to.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of, I've talked to Chris quite a bit about, going faster, and him, Chris Krebs, Johnny Gilbert, I talked to him, Stephen O'Neill, Patrick Brown is doing some big things in the VP side with the 6.7. It's getting interesting out there right now because, Patrick, he put down a dyno number that I never, ever thought I'd ever see a VP make, 15, 20 or something on the dyno with the 6.7 VP. Just ungodly, unheard of, and it's fantastic. So, even, Gavin Hook with his VE at Firepunk's VE Day, 1,200 horsepower almost with a VE truck, like incredible, so I love that about the industry because we can get our different platforms, we can push them to the max and see where the chips fall at the end of the event or the end of the dyno day or the races or whatever. It's just great.
Yeah, definitely agree. So tell us about your race truck and what all you got done to it, and kind of give us a Well,
so right now, I haven't been too active with it this year, but just because I've been busy with the railroad and trying to keep the business going and just been busy. But it's right now it's got a 64 7314 on the manifold with a S480. It's an 8096 115 T6 atmosphere charger. Has a infinite performance custom billet wheel, compressor wheel in the 80. The 64, it's a box charger, nothing special. Makes right at 100 psi a boost. Injector wise, I'm running an 8-hole infinite performance injector. It's kind of a custom job. I think there's only 2 sets of them in the country right now. It's an 8-hole. 4 of the holes are 20 thousandths, and 4 of the holes are 9 thousandths, or orifices anyway, are not 9 thousandths. 2 different spray angles. We've done all kinds of different modifications to the internal sac and everything on the injector. So they're a pretty gnarly injector. They flow like crazy. Run a stage 2 Scheid VP44. And then it's transmission-wise, it's basically, you might as well call it a 48, but it's a 47-48 hybrid, but billet everything, full manual valve body, all Garins, internals, converter, valve body, everything. And then, like we talked about earlier, it's got a fiberglass front clip, and it weighs about 4,700 pounds. Right now I run a 31 and a quarter tall slick on it. I tried the 2810 5s. I like them, but I do a lot of quarter mile stuff, man, so I got to have a taller tire. I don't want to re-gear the truck. I don't want to put AAMs in it. So I just went with a 31 and a quarter tall tire, and that'll stretch me right out to the quarter mile. So, you know, it's always a work in progress. Like right now, I've had a Maximizer 5 progressive nitrous controller in it for a year and a half, and I have yet to even wire it up, man. That's my kryptonite. I hate wiring. And after seeing Gavin hit those numbers, we kind of talked a little bit, and I said, all right, man, let's get this nitrous thing going. Let's get it all set up just right. And so, you know, this month we're going to get it all set up and get it ready for Hub City Dirt Drags in October. But yeah, it's a unit, man. It's the thing that kind of shocks people is it's kind of the engine itself is minimalistically built. I have 625 studs, Crowler valve springs, extreme duty push rods, fire rings, and a completely bone stock bottom end. It's got 290,000 miles on it now, probably, and it's bone stock. I paid $700 for the block from a neighbor of mine 3 years ago, and it just takes it and just asks for more. You know, I mean, it's lasted a lot longer than I thought it would, to be honest with you.
Yeah. The similarities of your build and mine is very similar. Not to take away from the spotlight of the podcast on your truck, but my block is, when I bought it, when I bought the truck, it had 485 on it. It's probably in the 490s now. Still stock bottom end. I've done some head, but I mean, it still has the stock head. It just has the push rods, valve springs, all that fun stuff. Our turbo setups are slightly different. I'm running a 464 and a half, or a 364 and a half, and a 488. And then my injectors were built by Ducky Fuel, and my transmission it was a RevMax competition unit that has now gotten a full manual valve body and the Santier shafts. And then my pump was a Monster Mike Stage 2. But other than that, I mean, realistically, our trucks I just didn't have the fiberglass front clip. This past winter, I back half the truck and 4-linked it, and then the pump went out, so I never got to see what it would do with the 4-link and back half. But I mean, our trucks pretty much weigh about the same.
Yeah. I would like to do a little bit more, weight reduction with it, but right now I think it's just going to get, it might get a 4-link in the rear, but I have to focus on my cage. I'm not set up to go faster than 640, and so we got to get it certed and hopefully get my license and do all that, within the next year here. But, I would like to get it down to 4,500 pounds, and I don't think that'll be much of an issue. I took the big cell out of it. I could do little things like getting a lithium battery instead of having two big heavy batteries back there. I can, back half it, lose a little bit of weight there, but it's not in the cards right now. I think I'm just going to make it safer. We've had a lot of incidents over the last couple of years where some people got lucky, others unfortunately didn't. So, having 6 kids, man, I want to make sure I want to make sure I go home.
Yeah, definitely. I was before we even did the compounds and everything, we put a cage in it, and that in itself is a crazy difference in how the truck drives and races. It really stiffens everything up. It's almost like driving a different truck.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't regret overbuilding the cage like we did. My cage, I have to get it started, but it's good for, I forgot what it was good for, but we definitely overbuilt the cage for what we were doing.
Right. Nothing wrong with that.
Big part of it's safety. At the end of the day, it's pretty easy to make the trucks go fast. It's making them slow down and be safe if something happens is the challenging part that a lot of people overlook.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of people also overlook fire extinguishers on them. Sometimes when a motor goes, a fire extinguisher is not going to do nothing for you. But I've seen multiple trucks at events. They get to the end track, fuel line pops or something, and they got a complete fireball underneath the hood. And just having an extinguisher might be able to save your build from burning all the way to the ground.
Yeah, and I mean, admittedly, I'm one of those guys that I completely forgot about the fire extinguisher. I've not had one, and after seeing a couple of those trucks there in where was it? Rocky Top.
Yeah, Rocky Top had one.
Yeah.
Diesel Wars had one last year, or last fall, or it might have been the spring. I think it was the spring event at Diesel Truck Wars. They had one catch on fire. Just a few of them I've seen and heard of, and I'm big on, I know you're trying to save as much weight as possible, but at the end of the day, what's 5 pounds going to do?
Right. I agree. Yep. I always used to be against wearing the fire suit just because, it's so damn hot sitting in the staging lanes. And then I'm like, you know what? You see the burn marks that Sean Baca got when he blew his stuff up on the dyno. What was that, 3-4 years ago now? He had blisters the size of baseballs on his arm, and I'm just like, I'd rather sweat a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same way. Always keep my fire suit up to date. And a lot of things that people don't look at is the harnesses. They have a date on them. I always replace mine every time the date gets close. But a lot of people, I've seen a lot of trucks where, you put the harness in, you forget about it.
Yep.
But it's also one of them things, if you go to a good track that has good tech that's checking over everything, it would suck to not be able to race that day because your $125 harness is out of date.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I had to replace mine this year. They expired in December. So, no, I feel it. I mean, it's, and with my truck, I actually had to buy 2 of them because I used to do events here locally that I could actually take my kids and I could race 300 foot with them in the truck. So I had to buy 2 of them. But, now with the seat, I don't do that event anymore. It's too hard on my transmission. So the seat's coming out. Nitrous is going in. Now I got an extra harness.
Yeah. And safety stuff is probably the most overlooked stuff, but I haven't had a problem, but I've just seen so many times where, just having the proper safety stuff will help you.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
So what's your goals with the truck? Where do you want to get with the truck? Do you have a point that you're just going to be happy with it, or do you think you're just always going to try to push the limits and see what you can actually get out of it?
Man, you know, it's hard to say. You know, it's kind of tough because you're like, man, I'm running mid sixes, I'm running low tens in the quarter. I should be happy, but you know, right now my goals are nines. I want to get to the nines in the quarter, preferably faster than my boy Steve there, Stephen O'Neill. I think he went 983. I think that's the fastest any VP engine has ever been. But you know, he's in that Pro Mod, that S10, so he's pretty light. He's got a pretty good advantage there, being 1,000 pounds lighter than most of us. So 992 or faster is what I'm pushing for. Johnny Gilbert's VP record was 992 at 136. I think in the truck side of it, the Dodge truck side of it, I think I'm only the second VP to get into the 130s. I don't know if Chris Parker did. I think he said I think he told me that I actually trapped faster than he did, but mile an hour wise, I think he's been like 10 flat in his truck. But so anyway, 992 or faster. Any 9 honestly would make me the happiest guy in the world, but 992 would just make me just a little bit more happy. And then I'm trying to get into the 590s in the 8th mile. That is proven to be very tough. I think it's got 630s in it right now on fuel. But it's definitely going to have to take some of that nitrous to get me in there. But, we start talking nitrous and its ability to stay alive falls dramatically. So I've been really patient, and so we'll see. So 590s in the 8th, and then I would love to see a 1,400 or 1,500 horsepower dyno with spray. I've seen 1,050, close to 1,100, but that was with a pretty piss poor nitrous setup, ghetto fogging. So I think if we get it set up nice, I would love to see 1,400 out of it. So that's kind of my goals with that.
All right. Yeah, I mean, seems pretty reasonable. I think you'll get there. I know you guys do more quarter-mile stuff over there when up north. We do more eighth-mile stuff over here on the East Coast. I know Chris Parker's been in the 5s. I know I got down into the high 6s. I think Drew Carter's also gotten down into the mid 6s, and he has a pretty quick truck. So, I mean, I definitely see you getting into the 9s.
Yeah, me and Drew, we give each other crap all the time, but he's lower on the list than I am, so I'm gonna have to give him crap about it. But I think I got him by a few hundredths of a second. I've been 658, and I think he's been 665 or 662, maybe. I can't remember what it is. But Parker, he went 591. I think it was the same day that he locked his up that he went 591. It was either that day or the day before, but he's been 591. So, he's definitely got a superior setup when it comes to the transmission and the back half, and he's really put his homework in on that truck. So, I mean, it hauls ass, man. He's hard. He's going to be hard to catch. yeah, it's fun, man. We like giving each other crap.
Oh yeah, I've been good friends with Chris Parker for years. I've been good friends with Drew for years, and we've always, went back and forth. And it's one thing to win a race, but when you beat one of those guys, I don't think there's a better feeling in racing when you beat your buddy.
Right. Yeah. I haven't been able to race Drew yet. He keeps chickening out when I show up to an event. But but I wanted to line up against Stephen O'Neill, and I didn't get a chance to because I didn't go to Shides. But hopefully next year we'll all be at UCC and we can go grudge each other. And there might be word of a VP dyno day at Firepunk next year. So we'll see. We all want to get out there and kind of put on a show for people too. So I'm excited to see what happens next year.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the VP world. I'm definitely my heart and my mind and everything is still in the VP world. I'm excited to see what y'all do. I'm gonna miss it. So, maybe one day I'll get tired of the P-Pump and come back to the old VP world.
We'll see.
We'll see how the P-Pump treats me. I'm excited to see if it does what everybody says it will do or if it's just overrated.
Right. Oh, I don't think you'll run into the overrated side. I mean, those things are, and I'll probably get a bunch of crap for saying it, but they're awesome. I mean, yeah, I have my stickers. Everyone's seen them, but it's you can't argue the fact that it's a good pump and it'll put out that kind of power and that higher RPM. There's nothing better sounding than a Cummins at 5,000 RPM. I love it. I wish a VP could sound like that, but they can't. So I think you'll be happy with it, man.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited about not being RPM limited and a little bit more flow on the fuel. And now it's just trying to figure out turbo setups and everything because I had everything set up for VPs and it's a total different world.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So you got any future events this year that you're going to be hitting, or are you just going to plan on hitting next year hard?
Well, the only event right now I've kind of got slotted because we're so busy, is the Hub City Dirt Drags in Hub City, Wisconsin on October 15th. My guy Riley Anderson, he's been putting that show together for a few years, and it's huge. Josh McCormick and I can't remember, Nate Banstra, they show up. There was some rumors that maybe Greg Albarella might show up this year. The payouts are pretty high, so we all like to go in there and throw in our $250 and see if we can walk away with $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. And so Hub City for this year, I think that's about it. And then we'll go back to the drawing board and get ready for UCC, Scheid, and Wagler next year. I try to hit all the Indiana events because it's a 7-hour drive for me to Indiana, and then everything else, you're talking 14, 16, 18 hours. So mostly just the Indiana events is what I'll hit next year.
Understand that. Yeah, we got a few events local to us, and then everything is Indiana and stuff like that. So, and that's about the same for us. It's about a 7-8 hour drive just getting there. And it definitely takes a toll if you're trying to make up a lot of events because, it's time off work. It's the cost of fuel. It's if you have any problems on the road, trailer, tires, anything. I mean, it gets expensive quick.
Yeah. I mean, on our way down to UCC this year, we actually got into an accident. I felt bad for the guy. He had one of those old school, like, Mark IV Supras, just a beautiful car. And we hit a patch of rain, and he was just cruising beside me, and that thing just hydroplaned and bounced right off my trailer, and he totaled it out, messed up my trailer tires, and super nice guy, though. He paid for my repairs, and he didn't get injured or nothing, but, $100,000 car just gone, But, yeah, so, I mean, running into little issues, and like you said, fuel and the way the economy is, it's just, if we can make it, we can make it. If not, then we'll just stay up here and play.
Yeah, it's always nice when you have some local events. I mean, I'm lucky that Truck Wars is 2 hours away from me, so I mean, I'm not too mad about that. I mean, that's a quick drive. And then I got some local dirt events, and then everything else is testing tunes, and every now and then they do, like, at the local drag strip, they'll do a take it off the street night. It's normally like a Friday night where you go out there and I think it's $20 and it's no prep, and you just go race. Make as many passes as you want, race your buddies, do whatever. It's just trying to, I guess they're just trying to keep down the street racing, so it's normally about once a month they'll do it in the summertime. And that's not too bad. Only from where I live, I can make it to the track in about 30 minutes. So as long as it's not a super busy night, I can go out there and make 5-6 passes and come back. But it's fun, but I mean, no payouts or nothing. It's just being able to get track time.
Yeah, for sure.
So how can people find you on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff?
Yeah, social media. So I have a couple pages on Facebook. The first one it's my group that I first started when I got into the tuning. It's called 1badvp44 Custom Tunes. Currently, we're just over 10,000 members. So we're doing some kind of fun stuff on there. We're doing some raffles. Once a week, I'm trying to do them to kind of show my appreciation to the guys that have supported me for the last 3 years. My next is my business page. It's 1badvp44 Performance LLC on Facebook. I also have a website, 1badvp44performancellc.com. My TikTok, 1badvp44_2 on TikTok, and then YouTube, 1badvp44, and Snapchat, the 1badvp44. That's all my tags there for you.
All right. Well, anybody has VP44 questions or wants to get some custom tuning or just get parts or compound kit or anything, hit up TJ with 1badvp44, and I'm sure he can get you and point in the right direction.
Absolutely. Hit me up on the Facebook pages or Instagram. It's all 1badvp44. Or check the website out. Give me a call. I'll be glad to help you guys out with whatever you need.
All right. And we normally, if you don't have anything else, we normally finish out a podcast with a tip of the week. Do you have anything for the listeners, or you got anything you want to add?
Oh, there's a lot of tips, man. Tip of the week. I've been talking to guys about this a lot over the last couple of weeks with compound kits. When you put your compounds together, You can't just slap the turbos on and expect they're going to do what they're supposed to do. If you want to properly tune your compounds, in my opinion, you need your 3 gauges. You need your final boost, your interstage boost, and you need a drive pressure gauge. You got to get that wastegate set up right. So it's pushing that S400 like it should. It's relieving your drive pressure. That right there is going to be the biggest helpful tip that you could have in setting up compounds and making sure they're performing how they should. If a guy has 100 pounds of boost, he doesn't want 200 pounds of drive. He wants 100 to 125, 150 pounds of drive. But the further you are away from that 2-to-1 ratio and closer to that 1-to-1 ratio, the happier your truck's going to be, your head gaskets are going to last, and all that. So always, set them things up right. Don't just bolt them on and think they're going to do what they want to do.
Yes, definitely. That's a big part that is overlooked in turbo setups.
All the time, man. All the time. I got guys that are just like, I keep popping head gaskets. Well, what's your drive pressure? Well, I don't know. Find out and get back to me. It's so important to have them tuned right and have them work together rather than against each other.
Yes. And a side note that I have, because I've built compound kits, you've built compound kits, I know you've ran into this problem, especially, taking it to a shop isn't as bad, but, people doing it, wrenching on it themselves. Clock your turbos. If you don't have your turbos clocked just right, you can either mess up the internals of your turbo because you don't have it straight up and down. You can have boost leaks. You'll have fitment issues. A lot of problems can come from just not clocking your turbos correctly.
Yep, absolutely.
And I know you've had calls and messages with that before.
Yep, for sure. You got to make sure they're clocked right, and if you buy a compound kit from a company or from me, and you put your turbos on and you say, oh man, my pipes don't line up. Well, you got to clock everything. It's a whole process. So you got to make sure that you have everything in the right spot.
Yep, it's a big part of it that's overlooked. Which, not everybody knows to do that. And, I don't fault anybody that doesn't know how to do something. At least they're trying to do it.
Yep.
But just ask questions. Ask the people that know. I have no problem answering questions. You have no problem answering questions. Just reach out to people. And a lot of the people in the diesel world will help you out.
Right. Don't be afraid to get second opinions either. One of the big things, not to take too much more time, but one of the big things that I've learned in the industry is people will go to Google and they'll say, best turbo, best injector, and it'll bring up the first name and bam, they buy it. They don't do any research. They don't do nothing. Ask, contact people, it's just, don't just believe everything the Google machine has to say. Do your research, and it'll pay off in the long run. Could save you money, may cost you money, who knows? But without doing that due diligence, man, all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure.
Exactly. And probably the last thing I have to add on to that is, yeah, you might be able to find a cheaper price on eBay or the first thing on Google, but really look at the name brands. Look at the customer service. You might be able to save money on a compound kit, but you're not going to get the customer service. You're not going to get when you have a problem and something doesn't line up. For instance, you send out another kit. For me, I either send them a new pipe or a new kit or if they're local enough, I will travel to your house and help you get it on, or just whatever I can do to help you, and you would do the same thing. You get
Right.
the first thing off of eBay you see, you're not going to have the customer service. You're not going to. They made their sale. They're happy.
Right.
The same way with the name brands. I've seen so many people run turbos, and they're like, "Hey, my turbos are not lasting." Well, where'd you buy them? And they tell me where they bought them. I was like, I've never heard of that.
Right. Right.
I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yep.
it might not be nothing wrong with your truck. It's just because you're running the cheapest $400 or $500 turbo you can find. That could be the reason.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of my least favorite parts of the job is tell a guy who just bought, turbos or injectors, paid thousands of dollars for them, and I tell him, hey, those are garbage.
There's a lot of companies out here making aftermarket parts that are, and I've been victim of it. I see a cheap price and I'll try it, and sure enough, it did not work. So I go and buy the nice one, and I'm out the money 2 times.
Yep.
And I mean, where you've done the same thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, it's no big deal. It's just such and such. And some parts you can do that with, and some parts it's better to have the name brand and something you can trust more.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, do you have anything else to add?
No, man. No, not at all.
Well, I appreciate having you on and talking with you. Went well.
Yeah, I appreciate you wanting to add me to the podcast, man. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. Hopefully have you on maybe next year again and see where your truck has gotten to, and see how your business is going, and see if you get the nines.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I look forward to it.
All right. Well, let's put that into the newest episode of the Blue Collar Racing Podcast.
All right, appreciate it, man. You have a good one.
You do the same.
All right, take it easy.
You do.